In Salem, Massachusetts, on Essex Street, an Airbnb. I will not disclose the address. The last night of our visit, I woke up at 3:20 a.m. Out of habit, I always check the time on my phone. I noticed the bathroom, hallway, and kitchen lights were on. Both of my friends were giggling in the living room. I found this to be odd. We all went to bed after midnight. My first instinct was, are they investigating without me? I heard them both giggle again. I presumed they were doing fine without me, so I fell back to sleep. It was around 8 a.m. or so. I was up in bed looking at my phone. One of my friends stepped into my bedroom and asked, "Did you hear anything last night?" I excitedly shared what I saw. Woke up at 3:20 a.m., lights all on, which I found to be super odd. Both were giggling. Assumed both were investigating. I chose not to join in and fell back to sleep. Her eyes grew wide, her face in shock. That's not what happened. Our other friend was harassed by the wife of the captain, the likely first owners, in her sleep in the master bedroom. My other friend was sleeping on the couch. She heard mumbling from the master bedroom. She walked into the doorway of the master bedroom to see our friend's leg straight out onto the side, as if she was being pulled out of the bed. Our friend was screaming in her sleep. She immediately recited the Lord's Prayer. Our friend in bed shot up, awake, and gasped loudly. They both moved into the living room and sat down in shock, quietly on the couch for some time. They eventually fell back asleep in the living room. They never turned on any of the lights. They never laughed. That lady spirit manipulated my environment to prevent me from helping. The lady spirit made it very clear we were not welcome. She also taught me that spirits can manipulate our environment, our mind, to trick us. She knew I was a medium. Had I heard my friends in distress, I would have sensed her energy and determined she was harassing us. I have been to many haunted locations repeatedly with incredible experiences. However, this home was tops. I will never stay at this house again. Someone that well versed on manipulating what we can see is a no thank you for me. This one's a little strange. This Redditor posted, "Why not stay there again? A few years back, I rented a house in Florida to visit my parents. I had my now ex-wife and 2 dogs with me. Because I don't like air conditioning, and because I stay up much later than my wife, I slept in the back room while she slept in the front room. First night there, I was sitting on the couch in the living room, watching something on my phone, when a dark shadow darted across the doorway leading to the bedrooms and bathroom. Both dogs saw it as well. Second night, same thing. Again, both dogs saw it. Third night, something jiggled my bedroom door handle, rather violently. I jumped up and opened the door, expecting to see my wife. Went to her room and peeked in. She was fast asleep and snoring like a train. Went back to bed and closed the door. Before I even settled in the bed, the door handle began to jiggle again, and something was shaking the door. One of my dogs grunted, got up, and laid back down directly in front of the door. Fourth night, again the door handle jiggled, and the door shaking. Again I got up and checked everything, and my wife was fast asleep. But this time, I closed the door, went and got in bed. The door and handle started violently shaking again, and then the door slammed open really hard. One dog was on the bed with me, another was on the floor next to me. The one on the floor walked over and looked around the end of the bed at something and whined. The dog on the bed then got up and went to the end of the bed and looked down. Then my bed started to shake violently, like 3 or 4 people were on it bouncing at the same time. I said, "Look, I notice this is your house. We're only here for a few more nights, and then you can have the house back. Do me a favor and stop this, shh, please." The shaking stopped as soon as I said, "Please," and nothing more was seen or heard or experienced for the rest of the day and the rest of the stay. I notified the owner and manager of the house that it was haunted, but he never responded. They probably thought I was a spook. When I was planning my trip there this year, I tried to rent the same house, but it was not available. Now someone posted and responded, "Wow, a few questions. Why would you rent this house again? Wasn't it scary enough? Did you tell your wife the next day what happened previous nights? And why did you stay after the first scary night?" And the poster responded, I was not scared in the least. I got 100 personal paranormal encounter stories, and I've never been scared except for the possible Bigfoot encounter in Smoky Mountains. Yep, told my wife. She didn't believe in all that stuff. And heck yeah, I wanted to stay there again. It was a good value, close to family, quiet neighborhood, and I like to think the entity was okay with me staying there once I acknowledged I was intruding on its home. About a year ago, I got an Alaskan Malamute puppy. I was so excited to have a dog. I wanted to go hiking with him, camping, and travel. It was fall in Iowa, so it can get pretty cold for camping. So I decided to start researching cabin rentals. I had found an amazing cabin in Wisconsin on Airbnb. It was fully loaded, very secluded in the middle of the woods, had a hot tub, internet, pool table, and great kitchen. This cabin was so beautiful, and it was pretty cheap to rent. The first time I had visited this cabin, I had a great time. It was just me and my dog. I relaxed, we went hiking, I cooked a great dinner, and I slept pretty well. I only stayed one night. Just a quick getaway on my day off from work. After getting home, I told my friend Martha about this great cabin, and she was eager to want to take a trip up there with me. We decided to go up the night before Halloween. We took off, just Martha, my dog, and myself. That night we had a blast. We drank, cooked dinner, chilled in the hot tub, then decided to watch scary movies since it was so close to Halloween. I was pretty drunk, but when I was standing in the kitchen, I could have swore I seen Martha run down the basement stairs, which were right off from the kitchen where I was standing. Then I looked over into the living room, and Martha was sitting on the couch, watching the movie. I was so freaked out, but again, I was drunk. So I kind of blew it off. We both ended up passing out late. Nothing too excited happened. What happens the next morning is what made me a solid believer in the paranormal. I was always sort of a skeptic when it comes to ghosts. I've had some experiences that were weird, but I could somehow justify it as just something else. So I always had doubt in the back of my mind. But that morning, we were pretty hungover. We ate a little breakfast, then decided to go sit in the hot tub. So I decided to lock my dog in his crate, and we went outside to get in the tub. It was so magical because it was literally Halloween, and it was dumping snow. We sat in the hot tub for maybe 15 minutes. I could have swore I heard a bang inside the cabin, and my dog was barking at something. We got out and ran inside to the kitchen since it was so cold. Then we literally froze in our steps. The entire kitchen was tore apart. All the cabinets were open. The refrigerator door and top freezer door were open. The bar chair were all flipped onto their backs. Drawers were open, pants were thrown off shelves. Martha's phone was charging on the counter, and it was unplugged on the floor. I have no other explanation than paranormal. My dog looked terrified, but there was no way he tore the kitchen apart. He was still a puppy, so he wasn't that big, and he was locked away in his crate. Before we went outside, the kitchen was a little messy from the night before, but nothing like what we walked into. The kitchen was trash. I know Martha didn't do it, because we both went outside at the same time. There was also no way someone broke into the cabin to do it. We were in the middle of nowhere, and it was snowing, so there would have been footsteps. And the hot tub sat right next to the long driveway leading to the cabin, and we would have seen someone drive up for sure. I just have no other explanation on why that happened. So now I'm a believer, and so is Martha. I'm sure my dog saw some crazy stuff. We left pretty soon after this happened, and believe it or not, I actually stayed in this cabin again. Multiple times. And nothing ever happened again. Maybe Halloween stirred up the spirits and they just wanted to be heard or seen in some way. Maybe I really did see a ghost the night before as well. Who knows? What crazy things have happened in this cabin. It's very old. The town is called Bixby, Arizona. It's a small town tucked into the mountains near the Mexican border, less than 20 miles away from the famed town of Tombstone. I'll give a brief history. Copper and other valuable minerals were discovered there in 1877, and a mining camp sprung up. The population swelled significantly over the next couple of decades, and at one point the population was bigger than San Francisco. The problem was that they crammed this population into what is effectively a canyon. The town is literally built into sides of a canyon with front door steps leading to your neighbor's roof in the lot below. With the population surge came crime, disease, sanitation issues, etc. Not to mention the toxic fumes and smoke that came with the mining operations. People were making money hand over fist while living in absolute squalor and misery for quite some time. They mined there continuously until 1974 and dug one of the largest open pit mines in America. When the copper ran out, the mining company up and left and basically sold the whole town back to the townspeople, and they turned it into a fun, artsy, hippie party town. Some world-renowned artists lived there, including the comedian Doug Stanhope. This year was the third year in a row my wife and I had gone down there for the 4th of July. The trip has become sort of a tradition. This year we stayed at an Airbnb that was a house built in 1901. It was actually one of the first houses built on the main street through town. I'd like to preface that overall I've always been a skeptic when it comes to the paranormal. I've always found it entertaining, but felt that ultimately it was probably BS. My wife also felt the same way. It would take a very concrete experience for me to fully believe. Well, let me tell you about my experiences of the past couple of days and nights that changed my outlook quite a bit. So the first evening we were there, we were just sitting and milling about deciding what we were going to do for the evening. I was in the kitchen and I distinctly heard footsteps on the hardwood floors. I absolutely thought my wife was walking up behind me and even felt the presence of someone there. I turned around and there was no one there, and she was laying in bed on her phone. We chalked it up to leftover thunder from a storm that had just passed, or maybe old plumbing. Later that night, we were getting into bed, and we were plugging our phones in and testing out light switches and such. I switched my light on, and we both heard a weird scratching sound on or in the wall. I even jokingly said, "Damn, I hope it's not wires arcing in the wall or something." It wasn't wires, as I'm familiar with that sound, but the sound was definitely along the same lines. The next morning at breakfast, my wife mentions that she had trouble sleeping because of very vivid and intense nightmares that took place in the house. She said they were those type of dreams where you're not sure if you're awake or asleep. It was enough to be visibly shaking her up, and she's not easily shaken woman. The next night rolls around, which was our last night, and we go to bed around 10 p.m. or so. I drifted off to sleep for what felt like maybe 30 minutes or so, before I was woken up by multiple itchy, ticklish feelings all over my body. At first I chalked it up to my sensitive skin against sheets I'm not used to. I've had that happen before, but this time it was different. Every time I would scratch the spot where I had the feeling, it would instantly move to another part of my body. It felt like someone was intentionally trying to aggravate me. I also had slept in the same bed a few times before this with no issues. Dealing with this made me toss and turn for a couple of hours until I finally had it and got up to find my wife, and she was awake as well. She was having the same nightmares as the night before, and she couldn't sleep. She also had a deep uneasiness about the mirrors hung around the house. Now that we were awake, she went out to the porch and to have a smoke, and I stayed in bed scrolling through my phone. And while I was doing this, I saw a person walk across the foot of my bed out of the corner of my eye. I also felt the presence of someone walking in. The airflow from the AC even changed slightly. It was vivid enough that I 110% thought it was my wife walking in, and my stomach sank like a rock when I realized she was still out on the porch. I thought it may have been a glare from my phone, but I tried every which way to recreate it, and I wasn't able to do so. Both of us being unable to sleep, we started talking about stuff. Now mind you, we rarely if ever argue or fight, and we definitely don't get angry and things don't get heated, especially over topics like this, like the ones we were discussing. As the conversation went on, this weird negative energy started to develop, and the conversation started turning south. We both kind of snapped out of it, though about the events leading up to this, and decided to pack up and nope the F out of there. As we were leaving, my wife went back to grab one last thing and heard multiple footsteps around her and had the distinct feeling that she was being chased out. We drove back to Tucson in dead of night and are both still sitting here, still in a state of shock about what we just experienced. I stayed in an Airbnb cabin in the Gold Coast mountains with some friends. This cabin's about 100 to 200 years old. Many terrifying, unexplainable things happened over the course of the weekend. When we first arrived, the vibe was pretty off, and everyone felt very unsettled, moody, and drained. There were many strange objects in the house, like scissors on the walls, rusty nails, farm tools as decor, unsettling masks on the walls, a heart with nails through it on the wall, rosary beads, etc. The first thing that happened was the first night. Two of us were downstairs unable to sleep due to feeling very frightened and feeling watched. There was a lobby of sorts, separating the front door to the living area to the rest of the house. The door leading to the lobby area was suddenly smashed so hard and loud that it rocked on its hinges. The next night we were sitting on the deck, our balcony over the forest, trying to recreate the sound of the banging on the door to our friends, who were asleep at the time. After hitting the wall 3 times to recreate it, 3 loud thuds were sounded around the corner of the balcony, and a spare chair was dragged. We all decided to move a mattress into the one room so we could all sleep together as we felt unsafe. When 3 of us were up there, a window slammed shut. Later that night, when everyone was asleep, at 3 a.m., I couldn't sleep. I saw the window that slammed shut had a shadow moving across it, so I decided to film it. During the video, I see a white figure move into the frame and back out again. I didn't look at the video until the next day, but it was a face as clear as day. When I finally fell asleep, I woke up to a man standing at the end of my bed at 6 a.m. He was dressed in indigenous clothing, a red, black, and white shirt with a red, black, and white sash, holding a spear and scowling at all of us. I absolutely panicked because I thought it was the Airbnb owners. And I woke up my friend who was in the bed next to me. She didn't see him, and eventually when I looked back, he was gone. I ended up feeling extremely nauseous and asked my friend to leave early with me. As soon as I got out about 1 kilometer away, I felt perfectly fine.